Are you looking for CAPM exam practice questions for domain 1, task 1? Then you are in the right place. In this video, we'll be going over 10 questions and also showing you the logic behind the answers as we go through each one of them. So get a pen, paper, and follow along. Let's jump right in.
An organization decides to group several related software development projects. Managing them together provides benefits like shared resources and coordinated timelines, which wouldn't be possible if they were handled individually. What is this coordinated group of projects called? A project, B, a portfolio, C, a program, D, an operation. Now, pause the video, select your answer, and the answer is a program. And just to read the answer, a program is specifically defined as a group of related projects managed in a coordinated way to obtain benefits not available from managing them individually. So if you can see the question, it says, managing them together provides benefits like shared resources and coordinated timelines. So coordinated timelines, and it says which wouldn't have been possible if they were handled individually. Hence, it fits the definition of a program, and answer C is correct. Now let's go on to the next question. Which of the following best captures the essential differences between project work and operational work? Projects are managed by senior executives, while operations are managed by team leads. Projects are temporary endeavors to create something unique, while operations are ongoing and sustain the business. C. Projects always have a larger budget than operations. D. Projects are only for developing new products, whereas operations are for delivering services. Pause your video and select the correct answer. And the correct answer is projects are temporary endeavors to create something unique, while operations are ongoing and sustain the business. The reason that is the correct answer is it identifies the temporary and unique nature of projects versus the continuous and repetitive nature of operations. Let's go to the next question. A team is building a new type of satellite where the technology is unproven and requirements are expected to evolve as they learn more. Which project lifecycle approach would be most appropriate? A. Adaptive, B. Operational, C. Portfolio driven, D. Predictive. Now pause the video and pick the correct answer. And the correct answer is A. Adaptive. Let's read the answer. The adaptive approach is designed for situations with high uncertainty and changing requirements, allowing the plan to evolve through feedback. So as you can see in this question, they were building a new type of satellite where the technology was unproven, and they knew that the requirements were expected to evolve as they learn more through deployments and testing. So the adaptive way of developing this project seemed the best answer, and that is the correct answer. Let's move on to the next question. A project manager states, we are proceeding with the belief that our key supplier will deliver the necessary parts by the 15th of next month. This statement, taken as true without proof for planning purposes, is an example of what? A constraint, B, an issue, C, a risk, or D, an assumption. Pause your video and think of the correct answer. And the correct answer is an assumption. The reason it is an assumption is because the project manager has assumed that they believe that the key supplier will deliver the part by the 15th of next month. And it is considered to be true for the purpose of planning. But there is no concrete proof for that. When this was started, they didn't have any proof. So it was taken without proof. Since it was taken without proof for planning purposes, it is considered as an assumption. Hence, D is the right answer. We'll go on to the next question. During a project, the client continuously requests new features that were not part of the original agreement without allowing for changes to the timeline or budget. This uncontrolled expansion of work is known as A. Change management, B. Scope creep, C. Risk management, D. Operations transfer. Pause the video and think of your answer. And the correct answer is B. Scope creep. And the reason that is the correct answer is, let's try to first understand the question here. So the client is continuously requesting new features that were not part of the original agreement without allowing for any changes to the timeline or budget. So it's not change management, because change management usually allows for the timeline and budget to be, appropriately changed or affected. It's not risk management, because it's not a risk that is going possibly to happen in the future. It is something that is happening because the client is continuously changing, adding new features, and it's not an operations transfer. So the right answer is scope creep, because this term specifically describes the phenomena of uncontrolled changes or expansion to the project scope without adjustment to other constraints. All right, let's move on to the next question. A project manager takes ownership of a project's failure, ensures all project assets are properly accounted for, and follows all organizational rules. Which of the four core values from the PMI Code of Ethics is most clearly demonstrated? A. Honesty, B. Fairness, C. Respect, D. Responsibility. Now pause your video and think of the correct answer. And the correct answer is D. Responsibility. So the key for this answer is, here it says the project manager takes ownership of project's failure and ensures all project assets are properly accounted for. So if you read the definition of responsibility, the value responsibility, this value is defined as taking ownership of decisions and outcomes and being a diligent steward of project resources. Hence, D, responsibility, is the correct answer. All right, let's move on to the next question. What is the primary role of a project within an organization's strategy? A, to manage the company's entire collection of strategic investments. B, to provide a permanent ongoing structure for producing goods. C, to serve as a vehicle for change, moving the organization to a desired future state. D, to maintain the current state of business efficiently. You can pause the video now and think of the correct answer. So the correct answer is to serve as a vehicle for change and moving the organization to a desired future state. So let's look at A. So to manage the company's entire collection of strategic investments, no, that's not what the primary role of the project is. To provide a permanent ongoing structure for producing goods, no, that's not the role of a project either. To maintain the current state of business efficiently, no, that's not the role of the project. Projects are fundamentally agents of change created to achieve a transformation and realize value for the organization. Hence, answer C is the correct answer. Let's move on to the next question. A project must use a specific type of software mandated by the client, and the total budget cannot exceed $50,000. These two factors are examples of A, assumptions, B, constraints, C, risks, D, issues. You can pause the video and think of the correct answer. And the correct answer is B, constraints. So let's look at A, assumption, why it was not the correct answer. So assumption is something that you have a belief in without having the proof. But here the client has already mandated that they want a specific software and they have given a budget. So it's not an assumption. Risk is something that can happen in future and it has not yet occurred. So that's also not the situation here. Issue, it's that's a tough one, but it's not really an issue because the client has already said this and said this is the boundary. So the way it has been set is as a boundary. So when something becomes a boundary, it fits the definition of a constraint, which is a constraint is a limiting factor that affects the execution of a project, such as a predetermined budget or a required technology. Hence, B is the right answer. All right, let's move on to the next question. In a predictive plan-driven project, what is the primary purpose of a work breakdown structure? To A, identify all potential project risks and opportunities. B, to hierarchically break down the total project scope into smaller, more manageable pieces. C, to create a flexible list of potential features that can change daily. D, to document the project's ethical guidelines and responsibilities. So you can pause the video and think of the correct answer. And the correct answer is B. It is the work breakdown structure is a foundational tool in predictive projects to use to decompose the total work into manageable work packages. See, it can be to identify projects and risks because those are defined, those are done as part of risk management. And it can be for flexible list of potential features because that's not what WBS is for. And neither it can be for ethical guidelines and responsibilities because that's not connected to the WBS structure. Hence, the correct answer is B, which is the hierarchical breakdown into smaller and more manageable pieces. All right, we'll move on to the next question. And the final question. A team member reports a critical software bug just one day before the product launch. This bug has an immediate impact on the project's objectives. This situation is best described as A, a risk, B, issue, C, assumption, D, constraint. You can pause your video and think of the correct answer. And the correct answer is B, issue. The reason A, risk is not the correct answer is because risk is something that can or cannot happen in future. It's out in the future. C is an assumption is not the correct answer is because it's not on facts. This is a fact that has actually happened. This is not something that we don't have a concrete proof of. So there's no assumption application here. And it's not a boundary either. This bug has just one day before the product, it is being reported. So when it's reported, meaning it has already occurred. Hence, issue is the correct answer because issue is defined as a current condition or problem that has already occurred and requires attention. Hence, B is the correct answer.